There we are. Hello, everyone. I'm seeing in the LinkedIn chat that we have people from all places. We have people from Pakistan, from India, from Spain, from Latvia, from Estonia, Argentina, Poland. So welcome, everyone. I'm so happy to have you in the stream today. And I hope that you enjoy today's topic. It's my first time doing a codeLive after a long period because I went on maternity leave, and I'm so excited to be here today. Today's topic is going to be, let me share my screen, unlock unstructured data with Data 360. And it's a pretty exciting topic. I've learned a lot preparing this presentation, and I hope that you do as well. So first things first, my name is Alba Rivas, and I am a developer advocate here at Salesforce. And I want to ask you, if you have questions during the presentation, please put them in the chat, because I'm going to be monitoring the chat both in YouTube and on LinkedIn, and I will try to respond to all your questions, or at least I will do my best for that. Okay. And because I work for Salesforce, I need to include this slide, which means that you should make purchasing decisions based on the features available, generally available. But the two features that I'm going to focus on today are generally available, so you don't have to worry much. So the name of my talk is Unlock Unstructured Data in Data 360. And I always enjoy or like to make my presentations easy and start from the basics, because many times there are people who don't really know some of the basics concepts. So we are going to start from scratch by defining what unstructured data is. So unstructured data are that type of data is that type of data that doesn't have a predefined format or model. Typically, images, audio files, video files, but also emails, for instance. Okay? As you can imagine, this type of data is much more difficult to search, especially traditionally, right? With AI, things have changed quite a lot. Whereas structured data is typically the data that you will have on a database or an Excel spreadsheet, and it's much easier to check, to search. So what happens with this? That 80% of enterprise data is unstructured. So I'm sure that many of you have been in a situation in which you need to make the most of unstructured data, and maybe you have missed a feature, a tool that could help you make a good usage of that data or extract the data and the information that you needed, right? So today I'm going to cover mainly two features. I know that my talks are normally very developer focused, and today it's going to be half-half, because one of the features is more like an admin feature, intelligent context, and the other feature is more, it's also an admin feature, but also it has a very important developer standpoint, and there are like many implementations that developers can do with it, with Document AI, which is the second feature that I'm going to cover today. But I don't know what you think, but in my opinion, Data 360 is so technical that even being an admin for Data 360 needs like a lot of technical knowledge and knowledge that could apply to any kind of roles, right? So we're going to start with intelligent context. So intelligent context is a tool that allows you to ground agents in a better way. doing an optimized semantic search. So we had semantic search before, but with intelligent context, we are going to make that semantic search better, okay? Sorry, my alarm. And again, let's define the term, because some of you may be familiar with the term semantic search, but some of you may not, okay? So semantic search, also known as vector search, is a kind of search that works with similarity, right? Or that search by similarity. So while in keyword searches, if you look for a word like policy, results containing guidelines are not going to be returned. If you do semantic search or similarity search, terms containing something that is similar to policies, such as guidelines, terms like those are going to be returned, okay? So keyword search is easy to implement, especially with relational databases, but semantic search is not that easy. We need to do some pre-processing of the data, at least if we implement it with AI, okay? And then we will use some data that we will create in that pre-processing step to look for similar terms. How does it work? So in that pre-processing step, what we do is to first chunk the data into meaningful bits. And then we calculate the embeddings. The embeddings are vectors that represent the meaning of words, right? So the closest the embeddings are, the more similar the words or the chunks are, okay? So normally those embeddings are stored in a vector store, which is a special kind of database table. And then we can implement semantic search by doing some math calculation and finding the vectors that are closer, right? One to another. So how is semantic search implemented in Data 360? So when you ingest or connect your data, and in this case, it can be structured data, but we are focusing the presentation on unstructured data because it's very powerful when you are doing semantic search in documents and so on. What happens is that normally the user, although sometimes it happens automatically behind the scenes, will configure a search index. A search index is no more than the configuration that you want to use in that pre-processing step to find your chunks and to find your embeddings. And this is something that you can tune. And why would you like to tune this? Because depending on your chunks and your embeddings, your search results are going to be more or less accurate. So you need to play with it a little bit so that your semantic search works properly or in an optimized way, right? And there are many things that you can configure in that search index configuration, such as, for instance, if you want to do a hybrid search or only a vector search. Hybrid search is just the combination of vector search, semantic search, with keyword search. Which chunking strategy you want to select, which embedding model you want to select, if you want to apply any filters, if you want to do any pre-processing or parsing using an LLM, and this is one of the things that intelligent context provides, okay? And so on. So once you're happy with your search index, you apply it through to normally a UDMO, okay, but also DMOs are supported. UDMOs stands for Unstructured Data Model Object. And that way, when you build it, the term that is normally used is build it, and the chunks and embeddings are calculated and are stored in two tables, the chunk table and the index table. So those tables, once they are ready, they are searchable with SQL. Okay, you do something like this. there is a keyword called vector search and another one called hybrid search that you can do to do your semantic search, those math calculations that I mentioned at the beginning to find the closest vectors or embeddings. Or something that you can do is to create a retriever, which is like a declarative representation of this query. I would say, I would define it that way. The benefit of using retrievers on top of making things, building things declarative, is that they are available in many places. You can use them in Prompt Builder, you can use them from Agentforce data libraries and in Flow and in Apex and through the API, okay? So creating retrievers is a good way of creating a way of like retrieving data from that embeddings table that you create first. But what we're going to see today is how intelligent contexts help you create this search index in a sandbox app, doing some iteration to find the embeddings that work better for your data and for your use case. Because I mentioned that you need to configure the search index, but if you have to configure it and create the chunks and embedding table like the finance ones every time, that could be a really hard task. But with intelligent context, we are going to see that we have a sandbox environment in which we can test our configurations like faster and create the best configuration possible, and also use AI to help us create that search index. This is what I was mentioning about retrievers, is no more than a declarative way of doing this SQL query here, and they are available in several places. And I forgot to say that one other benefit of retrievers is that you can create ensemble retrievers that allow you to search in multiple sources, which is also kind of a cool feature. So I'm going to the demo. I'm going to take a look and see if there are any questions in here. I see a lot of hello. Okay. Hello, everyone. Question. Okay. With the new 10 gigabytes file limit, will there be computer vision options to infer detail from unstructured video data in Data 360? Hi, Beach Horn. Thank you so much. Or Beach, I don't know how to pronounce your name correctly. Sorry if I mispronounced it. I don't know the response to this question, but I can take it as a follow-up question and tell you after the stream, okay? Because I'm mostly focusing on intelligent context and document AI today, but I can definitely ask around. Okay, so let's go to the demo, because you are going to understand this much better with a demo. If you want to launch to use intelligent context, you go to the process content tab in Data 360. And there you have a section which is intelligent context. And I mentioned it is used to create a search configuration. So we click on new search configuration. I'm going to call this configuration brochures, for traveling, okay? Because we are going to create a search configuration for a UDMO in which I have stored a lot of travel brochures. And it happens that those travel brochures have been scanned, don't have a lot of quality. They have tables, diagrams, images. And if you don't process them properly, the chunks and embeddings that you are going to get are not going to be super accurate. So we are going to make use of intelligent context to iterate over our search configuration, and we are going to see how we can improve it. Okay, so once you create that search configuration, you can go to your sandbox app, a sandbox app. I like to call it this way. I think it's something that I have invented, but I think it's like a sandbox app. Okay. And let me find a travel brochure, a sample one, which is this one. Okay. For this test environment, you can upload up to 5 different brochures. Some customers came with the feedback saying, if we are going to finally apply this to a UDMO that has my brochures, shouldn't I be able to select one of the PDFs that I have already uploaded to that UDMO? And that's something that the team received as feedback, and they are considering changing the workflow a little bit, both for this tool and for Document AI that you are going to see. It's kind of similar to this app that you are seeing here, so that you know. But at the moment, how it works is, if you want to create and test your search configuration, you need to upload some sample documents yourself. So I've uploaded here a document that, as I mentioned, is scanned. The quality is not very good, and it has some tables, diagram, etc., that would be difficult to parse. So if you see this button here, set up my configuration using smart defaults, this is what everyone should be doing at first, okay? Because if you click on here, an LLM is going to examine your document, and it's going to determine the best search configuration that can be used in this document to extract the data, okay? However, because I want to show you how the extraction, the search can improve if we tweak the configuration parameters, we are going to start by just running the most simple configuration possible, okay? I have here just the default things, and I'm not touching everything. And the idea would be to apply changes so that my chunks and embeddings are generated right now just for this talk, because as I mentioned, the idea would be to set up everything with smart configuration at first. But we are going to do it because I want you to see the result. Because this is going to take a little bit, I have the chunks created with the most basic configuration, okay, already here. I have another search configuration that I prepared before. And one thing that we are going to do, so you see that here in the PDF, there is a temperature graphic in which we can see the average temperature in Egypt in the different months of the year. So we have that in May is 32. So we are going to ask here Agentforce, what's the average temperature in Egypt in May? And we're going to see what happens when we have the basic search configuration applied, right? And this is what Agentforce returns with. The average high temperature in Egypt is 35. It's wrong, right? Why is it wrong? Because if we go to the chunks from which it's extracting this information, you see that that graphic, that chart, was not extracted properly, right? Because here the information is not extracted properly. However, if we had run the configuration pushing the smart button that we had at the beginning, I have another search configuration in which I already did that for the sake of time, okay? And we are going to ask the same question. Let me copy and paste because I'm a little bit lazy, okay? And we're going to see that this time it's able to extract the information correctly. If we go to the chunk, we see that now the information is formatted much better, right? Probably you can see it better now. but why it was able to respond with the right information? Because this time the parsing it went much better, right? And if we take a look at the configuration, this is the configuration that was that I created by clicking in that smart configuration button that appeared here when I created the index. Okay, I didn't change anything. And we can see that, for instance, for pre-processing option, Intelligent Context decided that because this is a PDF with complex data, we are going to create that to build that search index by doing some LLM-based preprocessing. And it created a prompt that explains how to do that preprocessing. But this is a default prompt. You can make your search configuration much better if you customize this prompt. For instance, here, instead of saying you are a document AI assistant, you could say you are a travel agent that who's going to process, whose job is to process travel brochures that have bad quality, whatever. The more specific you are with the prompt, the better the embeddings are going to be created. And here you have a lot of options. I'm not going into the details of every option. You have everything in the documentation because I want to cover also document AI. But there are many options that you can use depending if your document has it's an image, for instance, instead of a PDF, or if your document has only one page with diagrams and the rest is mostly text. And there are many of them reasons for choosing one option or the other. Here is cost, right? Because some options are more costly than others, and if your document is not, sorry, I have a chat here with me. So if you're you may want sorry for that, wow. So you may want to use a more cost-effective option that equally gives you good results. Okay, so once you so the idea you have, so something very cool of Intelligent Context is that you have this Agentforce panel here for iteration, right? You have a direct way of creating those sample chunks and sample embeddings only with the documents, the test documents that you have here, and ask questions to iterate over them before you publish your configuration to build your final search index chunks and embeddings, okay? Once you are happy with the result, you iterate and you're happy with the result, then you would publish this and you would select an unstructured data model object. In my case, the UDMO that contains the final, like all my travel brochures, and then you would click on next and create. Then it's going to take some time, and it will create your chunk table. For instance, I did that already, okay? And your embeddings table. Let me look for here. It's called index, okay? The table underscore index. So these are the embeddings, the vectors that search configuration, optimized search configuration, was able to find for me. And then, of course, you can use this to run your agents, okay? I'm not going to do this in this specific demo today because I want to be mindful of time. But the idea is, once you have your search configuration, you create your retriever and you feed your prompt template or your Agentforce data library. So I'm going to take a look at questions again. And so there is a question from Akshay Shingar. Does chunk and index represent hybrid search? So I'm going to get back 1 second to this slide. And so chunks and embeddings An index represents your chunk data and your vectors, your embeddings, okay? And that's related to vector search. If you configure hybrid search, it means that you want to have configured both vector search and keyword search. Why would you want to do that? Because sometimes you want to have both kind of searches, because keyword search is going to be more accurate in regards to finding the exact match. Okay, I hope it helps. Okay, is Salesforce RAG effective for 1,000 PDFs? What are best practices, and is it better than fine tuning? Okay, so if you are referring to the limits of intelligent context and how many PDFs can intelligent context support, I have to refer you to the documentation because I don't know exactly. So I know that one of the benefits of the feature is that you can do this in bulk, right? Because for one PDF, you could maybe go to an LLM and say, process this and extract data from here. But how do you do that in bulk with all your data on the platform? And how do you wire that data to your agents, right? And I know that the bulk use case, which is the one we have taken a look today, is designed especially for or intelligent content is designed especially for that use case, but I'm not able to tell you exactly which number of documents it support. Okay. And there is another question. Well, that question was from Say. Thank you very much for your question. There is another question from Pablo. Pablo, because I'm Spanish, I say Pablo. Do all the data added later is being vectorized automatically, or do we need to run the batch job to index newly added data? So I'm not sure about that. I think you can configure it, but I don't know if by default it runs on a scheduled basis, or if you have to configure that scheduling that job to run maybe once a day, or maybe at the time that the data is ingested. Okay, I'm not sure about that, but I can get back to you because I haven't used this in production, obviously, but I can find a little bit more about this and respond to your comment after the session. Okay, and then another question from Beats Horn. For SVG, is image processing required, or is that treated as text? So I think that the images that are currently supported by the image formats that are currently supported by intelligent context are like JPJs, and let me look for it, okay? Image formats supported by intelligent context. We are going to look for that. Of course, we are going to use AI. Sorry, cut again. 1 second. These are the funny moments when you have mascots at home. Okay, so yes, as I was looking for the formats that are supported, so it's PNG, JPG, PJ, WebP, and HEEC. Okay, I mean for Salesforce, I didn't specify it's Salesforce one, but yes, to your question, I believe so. SVGs are in reality numeric, an image that is with numbers, right? That represent the different vectors that are on the space. So I would say that there must be specifically some LLMs that are have been specifically trained to work well with SVGs for sure, but I think that they will be process tests probably. I'm trying to look for the information. Yes, so the formats supported by Intelligent Context in Salesforce are PNG, JPG, and PDF. Okay, so if you want to process SVGs, you will have to follow a different approach, and probably because these are like numeric representation of images, and another approaches and different approaches would work, like test processing approaches as well. Okay. Perfect. In any case, I can also take a look at that after the presentation and respond to your question in line. Okay? So let me continue with the presentation. And the second feature that we are going to cover today that helps you unlock unstructured data is Document AI. Okay? Document AI is an intelligent document processing solution that lives in Data 360. Intelligent document processing solutions, and this is generic, use technologies like AI, OCR, etc., to extract unstructured data and convert it into a structured data, okay? And the intelligent document processing solution that we have natively in Data 360 is called Document AI. And this time we're going to go straight to the demo because I think you are going to understand it much better this way, okay? So Document AI, you go to the Process Content tab, and there you have a section called Document AI, and again, you click on New. So this time we have two workflows, okay? For intelligent context, we needed a UDMO. And by the way, since I think March this year, DMOs are also supported, but I haven't tried out that feature yet. That was for intelligent context. But for Document AI, we're going to have like two ways of using the tool, okay? One of the ways is going to be the bulk use case. Think of the same use case that we did before. We have a bunch of documents and we want to create an extraction configuration that's going to be applied over all the documents to extract the data in them and to put it into a database table, because that's basically a structured format, okay? That would be one of the use cases. And the other use case would be, I want to do it in real time. This is, I have a document and I want in real time to tell you, hey, this is my document, this is my extraction configuration, extract the data, okay? And this can be very useful when you have, for instance, attachments, okay? I've seen some demos that extract data from attachments and expose them in the object using enrichments, okay? And that could be very useful because you can extract the data and have it there ready to be activated in your business workflows. So the idea is, in the previous tool, the idea was to ground agents better with semantic search. In this tool, the objective is I want to have the data structured because I want to build some business workflows that use that structured data. Or even you could want to use that structured data in your agents for better accuracy, okay, for more deterministic responses. So in our case, we are going to implement the bulk use case. So we are going to select from a source object, and we're going to click on Next. And in this use case, what we are going to do is to extract data from some resumes. There is a new position at my team. There is a developer advocate position open, and we have some sample resumes of people who want to apply to that position. The resumes are all in PDFs, but we are going to select both just in case some more resumes come with the image format. And you see that here in Document AI, these are the formats supported, so same as in intelligent context. There are two LLMs that you can use. Let's pick this one, for instance. And then you have to configure, or you can configure the output DLO. This is the structured object in which you want to store the extracted data. So you could use an existing one, but the real power of the tool is that it helps you create not only one structured object, but one structured object and some more nested objects in which you can store all the information extracted from that resume or any kind of document you are trying to process. So in this case, we are going to call the parent object a structured resume, and here again we need to upload some sample files, and again the team are working on improving this use case so that it lets you pick from the final UDMO in which you would like to apply your extraction. And again, this is like a sandbox app in which you are going to test your extraction before applying to your whole database of resumes. And because of that, you can upload files, and this is one of the resumes of a person who would like to apply to the developer advocate position. And again, here we have some options to configure the extraction, but again, we are going to use the smart option, which is using an LLM to create that extraction schema, okay, that now we can review before it being final and before it being applying to our whole set of resumes. So this is good because it's identified that from this resume, it can extract things like top level name, title, location, etc., etc. It has identified that, for instance, there is a certification section. So it has identified that it could extract certifications in a child table, right? And it has identified that name would be one of the fields for that certification table. Something that we can do is to add fields and also customize the fields that the AI has come up with. So for instance, for certifications, I know that's very typical to have the issue date, right, in the resumes. So here I'm going to add a column that contains the issue date, because maybe this resume doesn't have it, but other resumes in my database are going to have it. And here I can help the LLM find the right information by customizing it and giving prompt instructions. So for instance, here I'm going to say that this is the date in which the certification was issued. Okay, this is going to help with the extraction. And again, this is something that I would like you to do not only for the new fields that you create, but also for the existing fields. If there is a way in which you can tell the LLM how to make the extraction better, do it, because that's going to make you obtain like much better results. Okay. And even you can include a prompt at schema level if you want to give even more information to the LLM of how this extraction should work. So now I'm going to click on test. Again, think about this as a sandbox environment in which you can test your extraction before making it real. And it finalized. And here is where we can see the data that it was able to extract from the resume. The name, the title. If we go to the tables, we can also preview, for instance, the certifications. It wasn't able to extract any issue date because it's not on the document, but maybe if I had another resume here, it would have extracted them, and so on, right? So once you are happy with this, you click on save, and then you click on next, and then you save, okay? Okay, you need to provide a configuration name, etc. I'm not going to do it because it's going to take a while. And what I did was to already prepare an extraction that happened over my existing UDMO. And this would be, for instance, the certifications table that was created. We can also take a look at the resume table. I only have 3 because, this is not a production example, but the normal use case is that you have like a database with lots and lots of resumes. And once I have all the information parsed and extracted in a structured table, it lives in a data lake object, and you can activate it with any of the tools that you normally use in Data 360. You can create like calculated insights. You can create like integrations that launch platform events and go to flow and go whatever. Just as if this was like a regular extractor ingested or connected as object, or DMO in the case of Data 360. Okay, so, well, we're going to take a look. I'm going to continue with slides because I want to mention a little bit more about the other use case and what you can do as developers with this, and then I will take a look at questions. So I mentioned we have seen this pipeline here, the batch pipeline. Sorry, this one here, the batch pipeline, in which we apply that extraction to a UDMO that contains a bunch of documents. But there is a real-time pipeline that you can use that is exposed through the API. And that API, of course, is documented in Salesforce, but if you want, additionally, if you want to take a look at it in an easier way, you can check our Postman collection, the Salesforce Postman collection, and go to the document AI folder, because there you are going to find example requests that show you how to use all the different API endpoints that are available to create your extraction configuration and to run that extraction configuration over a specific document. Okay, super powerful. You could call it from an Apex class, and that Apex class, you can expose it to a Lightning Web Component, you can expose it to an agent, whatever you have in mind that you would do with Apex, you can do it through this API. Okay, so there are like many nice use cases for document AI and developers. So before going to the summary, I'm going to take a look at questions. There is a question from Tejas. How did you create a UDMO from chunks created processed from the file? I think you are referring to the previous demo, the intelligent context demo, and I didn't create a UDMO that way. My UDMO was there. Actually, I created it with an Agentforce data library because it's an easy way to create a UDMO, but you could ingest it, right, or connect it with one of the Data 360 connectors and create your data in there. What I did was to apply my search configuration index to that UDMO, and I did the same with the document AI demo. I created IUDMO using an Agentforce data library because it was convenient for my demo. But normally in real life, you would create it in a different way. And Keshava is asking about cost or credits. So what I know is that these two tools are GA, that they are included with Data 360, and that because they use AI, they consume Agentforce credits, okay? Data Cloud credit, their Data 360 credits and Agentforce credits, both. How much they consume, it will depend on your license, it will depend on the size of the documents and the number of documents that you want to process. But of course, it consumes something because it's using AI to do the job, right? Okay, so if you have some more questions, please put them in the chat window. If not, I'm going to go to the end of the presentation by sharing a summary, and please don't leave yet because I will share all the resources as well. By the way, I'm going to pop up the QR code with the resources so you can scan it if needed. So what did we see today? Intelligent Context, which is an AI-powered tool that will help you optimize your search indexes so semantic search is better. And since March 26, it not only supports unstructured DMOs, but also DMOs, okay? So that you know. And there are two more capabilities that they have added to the search configuration, which are prepend and pre-filter features that will allow you to do some kind of pagination logic when you do that semantic search, okay? Remember, we saw the bulk use case today. And I forgot to mention something very important because I said that only the bulk use case is available, but there's something else. There's another entry point in which intelligent context is going to be running. It's not something that you can implement, but it's something that happens behind the scenes. So today, when you upload documents through an Agentforce data libraries, ADL, intelligent context is running the smart configuration behind the scenes for you, okay? So if you do it that way, know that intelligent context is acting and looking for the best search configuration so that your data is searchable in a nice way or in a more accurate way, okay? Important. And then the benefit of using intelligent context is to have more accurate rounding in your searches in Agentforce. And second, we saw document AI, which helps you extract unstructured data into unstructured objects. There are two pipelines or operation modes that developers can implement and admins, which are the bulk use case, the demo that we saw today. We want to create a structure configuration and apply it through all my resumes, and the real-time use case, which we didn't cover today, but you have some nice videos among the resources that I'm going to share right now. And of course, the benefit of this tool is workflow automation and productivity. We are evolving this feature on Sprint 26. There were a couple of nice things released, such as confidence scores that tells you how confident the instruction is, a schema level prompts that we saw that in the demo today, and page selection. Although some of the features such as confidence scores and page selections are still only available through the API, but developers can already play with them, of course. And the title of my talk was Unlock Unstructured Data, but I just barely scratched the surface. There are many, many more features that help you make the most of your unstructured data in Data 360 that I didn't cover today because I don't have time for everything, but we have unstructured connectors, unstructured data actions, a retriever playground, right? To test your retrievers. There's something really cool coming called Notebook AI. We have enterprise knowledge, and there was a question about video before. So we're working on embedding chunking for other types of unstructured data formats. Okay, and of course, Agentforce Voice is also a way of working with unstructured data and unlocking your unstructured data, because audio again is unstructured data format. Here you have the QR code for today's resources. I wanted to show you is just a GitHub repo with all my resources, and one of the resources is going to take you to this page, which is a page that my colleague Akshara has created with the help of the product managers for this tool. And here you are going to find some recipes, access to the Postman collections. This is for developers, okay? You are going to find a section in which you can try out the feature connecting to an OR. So it's really, really cool, and some sample documents that you can use in your demos, in your test, and some more resources. I mentioned there are some videos showing the use cases that I didn't cover today. So come here and take a look at all the videos that we have available in our YouTube channel, because my colleague Akshara has worked a lot on this topic, and I'm sure that you will enjoy the videos. I'm going to take a look at questions again before finalizing the stream. When data cloud chunking, if we set the token size as 1000 and overlap token to 50, and when data cloud chunking chunks, how big paragraphs chunked? I'm sorry, that's a very concrete question, so I cannot tell you the answer without testing it myself. But my recommendation is, developing like test features and so on with Data 360 is something that you can do in demo environments. So go ahead and try it yourself, and you will see if there are any limits or if it works. Okay, then there are some thanks to you for attending my session. I hope that you enjoyed it, and again I will follow up with the questions that I didn't know the answer for. Okay, thank you so much, and see you in the next stream.